I'm David with LTD Media. Today we are presently in TopTunes.Rock's studio, who we are affiliated with, and we're recording this podcast today. It's all possible due to Filthy Pirate Coffee. We have the owner, Dan Spencer, here with us, and he's going to talk a little bit about his product of the night for us.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks to Top Tunes for hosting us. Cutlass, our dark roast Mexican Altura. It's our #1 seller for hot brew right now. It's delicious, bold, smooth flavor to it, low in acidity, and non-bitter coffee.
Awesome. So we're here for a bigger reason. We're going to be talking with our guest that's here tonight. His name's Sam Nagy.
What up?
Before we get into that, there's this picture that's going to pop up for the viewers. Okay, that's our guest. Look at the difference in the photos. We're going to let Sam elaborate on that difference and talk about how he got to where he is now and how he's here with us tonight. Sam?
Hey guys, my name is Sam Nagy, and I am not the man I used to be. You know, and I say that, David, first of all, thank you, Dan, Filthy Pirate Coffee Company, LTD Media, Top Rock Studios. Appreciate you guys allowing me the opportunity to share some hope. And really that's where it starts, is I didn't have hope. I didn't have an opportunity to get well, and I stayed unwell. I stayed addicted to drugs and alcohol, crack cocaine, 40-ounce bottles of liquor, under bridges, running from my problems any way it looked. You know, it was bad, it was rough, and it really wasn't a fun way to live life.
Yes. Were you homeless?
Yeah.
You were. How long were you homeless for?
I was homeless for 3 years, and that looked like basically hopping from place to place or living out in the wilderness, you know, out in the desert.
Yeah.
I never had a camp that I pitched, or a tent that I lived out in the desert. But what happened was I would go to jail and then get out and released to a halfway house, and I decided to leave there, run and gun for 3 or 4 day bender, so I would just completely lose all control of my actions and behaviors in a positive way. And then I'd go back to an institution or a jail or something like that, and the cycle would just continue for about 3 years. That was the end of my addiction lifestyle.
How long were you addicted to drugs?
It was a total of the better part of 10 years.
10 years.
8 to 10 years roughly. I got clean and sober. I started using drugs and alcohol when I was about 24 years old.
Okay. So you talk about this dark time or struggle that you were dealing with, and you know, the drug addiction. Was it self-medication that you were doing, or was there something else?
Sure, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It was I was medicating not in a proper way. I was using drugs to numb the feeling of, wow, my life sucks, you know. My life is not good. My family has pulled back. No employer would want to hire me. Nobody seemed to want to care about what was going on because I was kind of a big jerk, you know, a big jerk face, and didn't have clarity in my life to articulate, hey, my feet hurt, so I need to take a rest. Didn't have those types of boundaries in my life. You know, I didn't know how to stop using crack cocaine. That's all I thought about. That's all I ever did. I lived, breathed, and smoked crack cocaine, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was a terrible existence.
Hey, what were your run-ins with the police like? What was your attitude back then towards law enforcement and so forth?
I think for me it was just a negative thing on my part. I remember one time I was being taken to the Keno Hospital back before it was CRC.
Yeah.
Everything. I was being taken to an officer. You know, I started kind of threatening him, and it was just banter back and forth. We were just both getting at each other, and because I was being a big poo-poo head, if you will, and then he revs up and then slams on his brakes, and I go boom! I hit the the back, and it wasn't exactly roomy for me. I'm 6'6", about 375 pounds.
This was the Crown Victoria.
Crown Victoria,
cars, yeah.
cop car. Yeah.
Oh man.
You know, and then those things, it didn't ever figure out that was because of what I was doing wrong. It was like the reaction of the officer may not have been super justified, but the fact is that I also had a part in it as well.
Mm-hmm. So you go to you're experiencing run-ins with law enforcement. You're addicted to drugs. You're homeless. what was the defining moment for you to get back on your feet? What happened? Where were you?
You know, I think the defining moment really was the chance, really, that I would go to prison for a number of years, and that was really not anything I wanted to ever do. Because I knew in prison I'd have to fight. I'd have to fight to, as a big guy, you know, I'd have to fight. I'd have to, somebody call me a name, I couldn't just walk away. I'd have to physically, you know, do some harm to the person. And that was not ever something I ever wanted to do, and I'm not that kind of guy. I don't get that aggressive. It's usually inward if in the past. And so experiencing homelessness, experiencing drug addiction, experiencing all these things was really an eye-opening opportunity to know the right way to live, the wrong way to live life.
Yeah.
But how was I going to get to that right way of living life, you know, in a sense?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen overnight.
So what did you go through to build yourself?
You know, it was interesting because the probation officer, I had a couple of them, Kim Hart, Dan Brown, Melissa Melanie, I think her name was. Some of these older folks, that not older folks, you know, people that cared about me enough to put me through treatment rather than just send me back to, you know, get your check and go back to Quick Mart and there's a bottle of liquor waiting for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went to a treatment center called Casa de Vida. I got hooked up with programs like Cafe 54 through La Frontera's vocational rehabilitation program. I just started saying yes, really. It wasn't this big thing. But when the judge said, you're going to go to prison next, that was really the motivating factor for me.
No more jail, prison now.
Yeah, prison was the next.
Yeah.
And my wife says now, I've been married to a beautiful woman in my life, she probably wouldn't have even looked me up if I had, you know, just that rough background and exterior, and I did, but it didn't come off as something that was just a terrible thing, you know. I used it as an opportunity to share my story of hope and strength, and through the collaborations with Pima County, City of Tucson, and law enforcement, which I do have an opportunity to now train as a trainer for crisis intervention training with all the folks there that are involved, and really love that opportunity to do that as well.
That's admirable. Very, very admirable. So we talked about how you built yourself. You're here with us tonight for a reason. And I've seen you in a couple events with a beard balm company. What was the name of that?
Yeah, North Men Beard Company.
North Men Beard Company. Cool stuff. You're just out. You seem happy. You're inspiring people. You know, when I hear your story, all I can think about is people believed in you still when maybe you didn't. And I think that's something that you take out of the community and
Totally.
what's around you. And I think community is important. And that's a lot of the stuff we do here is community based, and it's incredible. When you started feeling normal again, what was that time frame from when you started the rehabilitation to when you started feeling normal again? How long did that take? Is it still a progressive thing, or are you still working for it?
So I like that question. I think for me it started in about 2000. Well, I got sober December 14th of 2006. So that's 13 years of just
Nice.
life without drugs and alcohol. Now, for me that was big because like I didn't know how to live life without drugs and alcohol. So like when I first got clean and sober, what was I going to do? So I learned about connecting with people who were helping themselves. I learned how to connect with people who had vehicles. I mean, it's kind of a very basic thing, you know.
Yeah.
But I never had a vehicle I never had a vehicle I could maintain. And I never had a job I could maintain. So I looked for people who were doing those things, and that all happened because of the support I had from my mentor, Dan Haley, who now works for a behavioral health agency here in Tucson. And I started to understand the difference between making positive decisions and making not so great decisions. And it started to build on itself. And
Yeah.
it started to build on each other.
And having a mentor is huge.
Yeah.
I still look up to people I know in my life that are mentors, and I think that's a everyday thing too that we relate to is having mentors around, and that's it's good to have people around that care about you, and have somebody kind of just tell you straight up, like, this is what's going on, fix this is what I'm seeing, this is what we can do.
Pretty cool story. Married, in church, clean and sober, businessman, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. Who
Yeah,
would've thought
and that picture
Right.
again, you see it,
Yeah.
right? So it's incredible. It's a pleasure being here with you, hearing the story.
Motivating.
Thank you.
We're actually going to continue some more with Sam, but that's going to be on our next episode of our video podcast with Filthy Pirate Coffee and LTD Media. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for the views. Please share all over social media. The more you share, the more people that are struggling might get a chance to see how Sam came and combated the darkness. Thank you.